What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is your daily meditation for Thursday, September 10th, 2020. I'm glad that you've tuned in. Thanks for being here. So the scripture that I looked at this morning is one of my favorite passages or few verses in all of the Bible. So much encouragement here, and whenever I read it, so many different things come to mind for me, and I want to share what those are with you, and I hope it doesn't feel like too much, but I've just got to, because it's all in there. So I'm going to share. The first story that comes to mind here is years and years ago. This would have been 2002 or 3, give or take. When I was volunteering with our high school youth group in Seattle, Washington, we took our students on a mission trip from Seattle, Washington to West Virginia, Braxton County, West Virginia. And while we were there, we had a fun day where we went whitewater rafting on the New River. And it was very intense. One of those days where when we arrived at the whitewater rafting place, the guides, the people who worked there, said something like, "We weren't really sure if we were going to take any groups out today because the water level is so high. It's dangerous, but, you know, we're going to go for it." And I remember all of us leaders kind of looking at each other like, really? Okay, you know. It turned out to be a fine day. Everybody lived, but one of the scariest moments of my life, and I'm a terrific swimmer, not trying to brag, but I've been swimming my whole life, competitive swimming. I'm a great swimmer. Grew up swimming in rivers, good swimmer. Not my first time whitewater rafting, good swimmer. There was this huge buildup to this part of the river, and I forget the name of the rapid, but there was an upper, a middle, and a lower portion of this rapid. And our guide in our boat was going on all day long about this one section and how important it is for us to work as a team, because this is going to be very hairy and dangerous. And this is not the place where you want to fall out of the boat, okay? So we were all sufficiently on edge when we finally got to that rapid. It's the last rapid of the whole day for us. Just after this rapid is over, it's calm water and we're taken out and we're gonna have lunch, you know? But you do not want to fall out, especially at the upper portion of this rapid, because you are going to have to swim it. We will not be able to rescue you or get you back into the boat until we're all the way through. That's what makes it so dangerous. Well, what do you think happened? Everyone was fine. The only person who fell out of the boat was me. I fell out of the boat in the upper portion of this rapid and thought I was gonna drown. I mean, it was insane. You can ask Lexi about it sometime. She was on the mission trip too, in a different boat, and she heard all the whistles going off because all the different guides of the boats were blowing whistles. They actually had a boat with us where it was 2 dudes in there, just a smaller raft. Their job was to make sure everyone was safe. And they were coming to rescue me. And I remember coming up, I mean, I could barely breathe. It was so rapidy. They threw that little sack of rope when I was in the middle section now. I had swam through the upper part of this rapid. Now I'm in the middle section of this rapid. They threw that bag of rope and it landed right across my body, and I held on like this to that rope and had to go through the lower section of the rapid just holding onto the rope. Most of it underwater. I really thought I was going to drown. So did Lexi. It was pretty scary, but they saved me. They pulled me out of that river, and that's a story. That's something I'll never forget. Another story that comes to mind before I read this scripture is right now, everything that's going on in the world. COVID, politics, you name it, we all have a lot going on, not to mention personal things in our lives. I know a lot of folks who are going through quite a lot right now. Lots of change, lots of distress, lots of stress, lots of fear, lots of uncertainty, feeling surrounded by negative forces, you know. That's going on right now. That's another little story that comes to mind. Another story that comes to mind is a scene out of my favorite books, some of my favorite books ever written, the Lord of the Rings series of books, in The Return of the King. Spoiler alert, if you haven't read these or seen the movies, this comes at the very end where Frodo and Sam have completed their quest, right? The ring has been destroyed. Frodo and Sam are on Mount Doom, which is a volcano, basically, that is erupting now. And they've had a long journey, and they are ready to be done. You know, they're surrounded by darkness and chaos, fire and lava, I think both of them at this point know that they're not going to leave. They're not going to make it back home. This is where they're going to stay. This is where they're going to die. And they are on an island of land, kind of near the bottom of this mountain, surrounded by lava. Hot ash is raining down. Frodo says something like, "Sam, I'm so glad that you're here with me at the end of all things." I mean, he's done. It's over, you know. But they also have this joy in them, knowing that they're free from this burden that they had been carrying for so long. So they have joy, but they also know that it's over. It's complete and utter darkness and chaos, and they're going to die here on this mountain. What they didn't know was that Gandalf was on his way, riding on the back of an enormous eagle named Gwahir, or something like that, pronounced something like that. And let me just read you a tiny little part of that tiny little part here. So Gwahir the eagle picks up Gandalf, and they fly with some other eagles down to where, south to where Frodo and Sam might be. Gandalf doesn't even know if they're going to find these two little hobbits, right? And here's what happens. And so it was that Gwahir saw them with his keen, far-seeing eyes, as down the wild wind he came, and daring the great peril of the skies, he circled in the air. Two small dark figures, forlorn, hand in hand upon a little hill, while the world shook under them and gasped, and rivers of fire drew near. And even as he espied them and came swooping down, he saw them fall, worn out, or choked with fumes and heat, or stricken down by despair at last, hiding their eyes from death. Side by side they lay, and down swept Gwahir, and down came Landrival and Meneldor, two other eagles, Meneldor the Swift, and in a dream, not knowing what fate had befallen them, the wanderers were lifted up and borne far away out of the darkness and the fire. So that scene comes to mind for us. How many of you can relate to these images, to this place that these two had found themselves in? And then finally, the last story, the last image that comes to mind for me when I read these verses is the baptism of Jesus. Just a little refresher. You remember when John the Baptist baptized Jesus down into the Jordan River. It was as he was coming up out of the water, the heavens split open, and God's voice came down for all to hear. And God said, "This is my son, my beloved, my son who I love, with whom I am well pleased." Listen to him, well pleased, okay? So there's this story too that comes to mind. So let me read to you these verses from Psalm chapter 18, verses 16 through 19. And these are for all of us who can connect with one of these stories. And I'll say a tiny bit more about it after I read them, but listen to this. Let these words be for you, okay? He reached down from above and took hold of me. He pulled me from the surging waters. He rescued me from my strong enemy, from those who hate me, who were too strong for me. They confronted me when my life was a mess, but the Lord, Yahweh, helped me. He brought me out into a wide open place. He delivered me because he was pleased with me. He reached down from above and pulled me out of the surging waters. Remember, For the Hebrews, water was a metaphor for chaos. The idea of water, written like this in the Psalms, represented chaos, darkness, unknown, uncertainty. You cannot see, you cannot survive. It's a terrifying reality. This is what water symbolizes. And the Lord reached down and pulled me out of the surging water. New English translation has the words that say that my enemies confronted me on my day of calamity. Well, calamity is when certain events have led to like complete and utter chaos and distress, right? Anyone relate to that? You know, God rescued me from my enemies that were too strong for me. I could not handle my enemies at that time. They confronted me on my day of calamity, that day when everything was going wrong, when everything was falling apart, when I was on an island, on a volcano, surrounded by lava, ready to die, when everything was just a mess. God saved me, God helped me, and God brought me out of that mess. God lifted me out of that mess and set me in a wide open place, a wide open space where I could see. In a wide open place, we can see what's coming and what's going, and we can see our surroundings, and we're comfortable and relaxed. And God did this. God does this. God promises to do this because he is pleased with us. Well, I don't know if God is pleased with me. Well, yeah, you do. God sent Jesus Christ to live and die and be in communion with us. And the truth of what happens in Jesus' baptism, these words that God spoke, this is my son who I love, who I'm pleased with, that's also our truth. This is my daughter who I love, who I'm pleased with. And so this promise about God rescuing and God pulling us out of chaos, out of the waters, on our day of calamity, when it seems like nothing is going right, when everything is a mess, and setting us in a wide open place. I mean, talk about that's like from the surging waters of chaos and darkness and surrounded by enemies who are too strong, to a wide open place, a place of peace and rest, where we can rest assured that we are with a God who loves us and knows us, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, no matter what your journey, no matter what you stand for, no matter what's important to you or not important to you. This is true for you. It's true for me. And so today, for this weekend, let's live our lives as if we're keenly aware of this at all times, showing love and kindness to others. And I think that's a pretty good thing to be thinking about. Hope this speaks to you. I hope it didn't seem like just a whole, a bunch of nonsense. But it's what we got. Peace, brothers and sisters. We will see you next time.